And coming up on the Marty Mariner show today, well, it's time to drag him out again. The Grumpy Old Men, episode 2. Dean and Todd are joining me here again in the Marty Mariner studio. Going to have a bit of a chat about the first round of the A-League. Men's competition kicked off. Some interesting games there. Well, most people kicked off anyway. We'll talk about that. We'll also have a bit of a prediction about a couple of games that are very interesting for us in the second round. We will then have time to bring on our very, very special guest, absolute legend. This guy is a former mayor of Gosford. He is the original gaffer of the Central Coast Mariners, and his name is very well entrenched in the history of this club. Mr. Lawrie McKinna will be joining us to talk all about Matty Simon's farewell. He was there with a number of the original players from the first year or so, and I'm sure he'll have some stories to tell us of that. We'll also talk to him a little bit about his trip to Scotland. And also ask him a bit about, what it's like for the players to leave this country and head over to Scotland and play over there. We'll also ask him about the A-League and the possibility of what's going to go on with this second division. Bit of news about that lately. So he will give us the updated info on what is happening with the league. So really looking forward to chatting with Lawrie very, very soon. Competition winners. Yes, we've got a competition winner. We said in our very first episode that all you had to do was write a comment in the very first episode comment section, and we would pick one out randomly, and you would win a stadium. Well, it's a stadium made by Dean, and you've seen them. You would have seen it in the intro for the Marty Mariner show. They're absolutely fantastic, made by Dean. We went through all the names, and the one we picked out, Shane N, the legend himself from Twitter. Got a book coming out very, very soon about the A-League, and we'll actually have him on the show to talk about that. But, mate, you've won yourself a stadium. So I will be in touch, and we will organise to get that to you very, very soon. Stay tuned to the programs, guys. We'll probably have another giveaway happen in the not-too-distant future. And they are absolutely great, these little stadiums that Dean does such a great job with them. So congratulations, mate. We will, as I said, we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. And just while we're on the thanking train, thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. As I've said in previous episodes, we had a bit of an issue with the original home of the channel with our good friends at YouTube. Think of it like it was our own home ground. We had a stadium. We were all set up, and we invited someone to come in and paint the dressing sheds a different colour, and they demolished the stadium. So we've had to move. So it's still the Marty Mariner show. It's the same backdrop. It's the same Marty. It's actually the same hat. But we've just had to move. So if you subscribe to the channel from day one, all the way through to the last week or so, you may just need to check that you are still subscribed to the channel. Easiest way to do that is just click on that button in the bottom corner. It'll either get you to subscribe or let you know that you already are. We shall not leave a subscriber behind. We want to make sure everyone comes with us, particularly those who just click on the links from Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that bring you straight here. We just want to make sure that we've got everybody covered. So, yeah, that little button in the corner. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please give it a press. We've got some great shows coming up in the not-too-distant future with some players, some retired players, some quite recently retired players are coming to the channel for a bit of a chat. So hit that button. And when you do so, make sure you hit that notification bell. It'll let you know when the next video is up and running. Don't forget to smash the like button. I mean, who doesn't like a video that's got Lawrie McKinna on it? Don't forget to do that. And there's a whole comment section for you to write and let us know exactly what you think of the show and also who you would like to see us interview. Don't be afraid to put some names down there that we will see if we can track down for you. Well, that's enough of the niceness. I think it's time to get the cranky meter and fire it up a little bit. Let's bring on the Grumpy Old Men. And welcome to the Grumpy Old Men. May as well introduce the boys first while we're here. And our very special guest, Lawrie McKinna, will join us a little bit later. But first, we've just got to get grumpy with these guys. Dean, from the little corner of yellow, the Wellington Phoenix. How are you, mate?
I'm old. I'm grumpy. Yeah, that's about it.
In that case, you can stay.
Oh, excellent. I found my people.
Sounds good to me, man. And Todd, have you dried out from last Saturday night yet? How was the swim home?
Very good. Feet are still a tad wet. I've got a web feet syndrome thing going, but other than that, all good.
My suspicion is that Todd had web feet before he went to Gosford, but that's entirely up for debate, maybe even a vote.
Oh, well, there's three of us, and you know which way I'm going. But anyway, boys, it was good. It was good to get the season kicked off. I must admit, after all the what felt like the longest off season ever, and God knows how many different trials, it was actually really good to get the season kicked off in earnest, as they say. Well, for most teams anyway. We're still waiting, Todd. So we've only got one guy here to say the season's actually kicked off for him. Let's just cover off on the games and just touch on a few things that sort of that happened, not just the results, but a few things off the field as well. The season kicks off with Melbourne City versus Western, a grand final replay. They had half the amount of people turn up to that game that they did to the grand final the year before. And to me, I thought that was a bit of a worry. I think it's a grand final replay. It's kicking off the season. To only get, I think it was about 7,500 people there. I think Western only one player different from their grand final side. Melbourne City had a couple of changes. Dean, do you think that was a bit of a worry for, crowd-wise Melbourne City, just to get half the crowd there that were at the grand final?
Yeah, I think so, because, were there any competing events? There was no cricket on, there was no AFL or anything like that. So the weather was apparently sort of good, as I recall.
Yeah.
So, perhaps slightly disappointing, but you're talking to somebody who's usually considers 20 people a big crowd. So,
and they're just the parties at your house.
Exactly, yeah, if you can find.
Because I think too, Todd, to me, when I did my tips and all that the other week, I've got the three Melbourne teams, City, Victory and Western, as being the top three again this year. I think they'll be really, really strong. And nothing in pre-season has really told me anything different to that. If you're Melbourne City and you've promoted the game, and we obviously don't know how much promotion was done down in Melbourne, but again, 7,500 as opposed to, I think it was 14,500 for the grand final. I know it's not Panic Station's its first game, but I just don't think that's a really good sign.
No, it's disappointing. Sort of go back to, was 17, 18, 29,400 odd at Mac Joe. And last year we had, 3.5 or something? Yeah. All those people, there were people that complained after, couldn't get a seat. You obviously weren't members. Absolutely. Or you're not fair income enough, or you're just bandwagoning because but that's disappointing first game of the season, especially when you consider the amount that turned up at Central Coast the other day in what ended up being appalling weather. I thought that was a good crowd.
No, absolutely, and we'll definitely touch on the travelling Newcastle supporters. There's definitely plenty of them, and hopefully when the game does get played, hopefully they'll all come back. But
I just hope it sort of kicks on from there, because normally you don't get a lot go to the Central Coast.
Yeah.
If you get good travelling crowd, you'd hope that it kicks on and we get a good crowd here. So good signs, even though we didn't get to play.
Absolutely. Well, we're just such a lovely place to visit. We're lovely people, lovely ground, and we'll even provide a swimming pool for you. So
wonderful.
That's just how nice. That's just how nice we are. So, but Melbourne City got the chocolates. I didn't think Western played that well. Was it Lacroix at the back had an absolute nightmare? I know a lot of people who had him in his fantasy team were making some changes real quick for this week. But I think Western will get stronger than that. I think they've got some players to come back as well. But Melbourne City, again, they've got players to return. But geez, they look really strong. Dean, I know it's been one round in, but do you think Melbourne City are the team to beat?
I'm feeling it's Victory myself. But just I saw more on the Victory game. It was a bit of a snooze fest, really. I think there was quite a few neutrals who were a little bit disappointed, perhaps, with the Friday. I saw some comments from colleagues who are watching it, and we all kind of felt the same. It was just if that's the flagship game, it's not off to a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely think, too, being the kickoff for the season, there just seemed to be nothing else about it. And, again, seeing the lower crowd, there was promotion done by the A-League. It sort of, to me, they left it a bit late. I know we spoke about it on the last the last episode that we did for the Grumpy Old Men, that there just hadn't been anything at that stage, no promotion. Yes, there was some that led right up to the game, but whether that had something to do with it, but I think both those sides will be there when the whips are cracking at the end, and hopefully there'll be more supporters there to turn up and actually watch them. So that will be good to keep an eye on when it comes to crowds. Brisbane, MacArthur came to visit, got a draw. I'll be honest, I did tip a draw in this game. I don't think Brisbane are going to be the outright wooden spooners that I keep hearing people talk about. Todd, I don't know if you saw the game or not, but Brisbane in general, Brisbane as a club, you feel that they should be doing better. They've got Charlie Austin playing there now, and he seems to say that they're all fired up and stuff like that. Brisbane as an area, though, should be they should have a real stranglehold on that area. Yeah. Surely it should be a lot stronger than they are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know if it's the coaching staff or you'd think they'd sort of be doing a little bit better than what they are, but they've had a few off-season problems, have they, with owners?
Yeah, I mean, most clubs do at some stage, but I definitely think they have it. They've had their fair share too. Yeah,
I think a lot of that flows on to on-field performance, like knowing what's happened to us in the past, sort of thing. Yeah. I don't know who you guys are, but I know a lot of what's happened here over the last few years. Ultimately, you sort of keep saying, "Yeah, they're professionals." Yeah, no, eventually it's got to get the better of even the best of them, I think. So, yeah. Again, it's early in the season, isn't it? It's sort of you sort of can't make an assessment on, because we're going to come out at the weekend and do amazing things, and that's probably as far as it's going to get.
No, absolutely. And I think Dean MacArthur had the cup final the other week, massive game. Came away with the chocolates. What have you made of MacArthur? I mean, they've sort of. They travelled pretty well last year. What are you making of them?
Well, they've got some good attacking power. De Vere, fantastic player, got a lot of time for Lee, and it's a sad story around him, but he came back. And the team's lifted around him. For them to go to Brisbane with that kind of attacking power and Lockie Rose, to go up there and maybe sort of not score. I mean, I saw the result, and based on the result, I was kind of glad I missed the game. But surprised with MacArthur. I think they've got some good attacking power, and to not score against Brisbane probably is more of a compliment for Brisbane.
No, absolutely. And from what I saw, as I said, we were watching from a soggy Central Coast stadium, watching on phones, and then got across. But it just seemed to be that game of not a lot of chances. It was very dogged out. I think you're right. I think that was definitely credit to Brisbane into hanging in there more than anything else. So we'll see how they go in the upcoming weeks as well. The Jets and the Mariners next on the list. Todd, we were there. You can see the scene right behind you. That was probably taken early in the night because it probably got worse than that.
Yeah,
it was like Brisbane Water Part 2, wasn't it? It was pretty crazy. No game to talk about, but mate, credit to the Newcastle faithful. There was a fair few of you guys that travelled down the freeway.
Yeah, impressed by the crowd all up. Like I would have thought, perfect conditions, we might have got a number that would have been roughly what it was. Considering we got that and it's this condition here. Yeah. Impressed. Yeah, it's the wrong way around. I sort of keep pointing and it's not there. It's I'm pointing at your head, not at the impressed by the crowd. And I hope it's sort of, the derby's my thing, and it's sort of that's good signs.
No, absolutely. And we haven't heard anything yet about the replay of the game. I think it'll be really tough to fit it in before the World Cup. I can't see them doing a weekend and then a midweek and all that, but we are relatively close just down the freeway, so they may decide that that's something to do. So
I think after having to put up with what we've had the last couple of years, where we're just going to make that up, we're going to make that one up. I think they'll be doing like you say and wait until there's a reasonable break and just saying, we'll just fit that one in somewhere there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One game that did get played and did have a bit of rain at the start of it was the Big Blue that was played in Sydney. Sydney against the Victory. Almost 22,000 there. We're talking about crowds early for Melbourne City. That's a fantastic crowd. I know it was the first game in the new stadium for Sydney to be there. Victory did look really, really strong. Dean, did you get to see the game? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I saw parts of it. I was impressed by everything. Michelle Mara, super fan. I'm glad she got on TV.
Yeah.
The actual game itself, looked terrific. As a neutral, I enjoyed it, got my money's worth. A friend of mine, Holly, went to watch it. Again, she said the crowd was great. Yep. So the atmosphere in the ground was really good. So that was the I suppose the premier fixture of the round, I think, from an entertainment point of view. So
yeah, and I think Brilliante was Brilliante. He was all over the place. I think we're talking about fantasy teams before. I think he's been moved into a few lineups with the work rate that he did. He was absolutely outstanding. But I think there was talk in the preseason, Todd, about Stevie Corica, pressure on him, disappointing last year. Obviously, they'll go, well, Victory, tough game first up. But there's pressure on the Sydney boss early in the season, isn't there?
Yeah. The hype around the new stadium makes it harder, I think. Like if you don't sort of go to an outstanding stadium like that and perform straight off, there's going to be more talk about why sort of thing. But I think the crowds at wasn't Nestrata, Jubilee wasn't up to scratch. So I went to a few games there that Sydney played, and it just the amount of people that just we're not going to bother going down there sort of thing.
It wasn't fun to go to, was it, Todd?
No.
Try getting an inflatable sheep through security at Cogra. Good luck. I've tried it twice.
Have you had that court appearance yet?
I haven't been caught, you see.
No, been caught. Well, why not appear on a YouTube channel? No one's going to see you on here, which is but yeah, good old Dolly the sheep. God, haven't seen Dolly for a while. Can't wait to see Dolly back at Central Coast Stadium again soon.
I look forward to the reintroduction. It's going to be a joyful reunion, I'm sure. You'll probably get about 5 minutes alone.
Well, Todd won't even have a team playing, and he'll be back down, I'm sure. So there's no interest. And speaking of Dolly, her team, your Wellington Phoenix, a draw against Adelaide. Look, I saw the mini match version of it, sort of skimmed through it. I thought there was a lot of heart shown by Wellington. The red card in the 25th minute, then to go 1-0 up and hang in there right until the very end, heartbreaker. But mate, what did you make of the Wellington performance?
Also, really positive. Started off with the crowd. You had a great crowd. Started off with great weather. As I said, it's perhaps one of the 7 signs of the impending apocalypse is sunny in Wellington, and again cancelled in Gosford on the same weekend. Yeah. But yeah, look, everything came together for a great result. I do agree, with the red card. I got no arguments with that.
Yeah.
He was like, it wasn't malicious, but it was, potentially serious harm to the Adelaide player.
Yeah.
So no qualms about that. I think we kind of turtled a little bit and hung on till half time.
Yep.
Then we sort of changed the mindset. We kind of like went on perhaps more of an attack. We subbed on the 2 Bens, Ben Old and Ben Wayne.
Yep.
And at times in the second half, I even forgot we were down to 10, some really good play. Having said that, our imports all worked well, except for Sasse. We only got to see him for 20 minutes. But Zawada and Kraev went really well, as did young Moragas up and down the road.
Yeah.
He obviously was a lot more defending than he perhaps was thinking about. So, yeah, look, as you say, heart, it was good, nuggety determination. We pinched the goal.
Yep.
For those of you watching at home or who didn't see the goal, I'll show you the.
There it is.
You can follow through in a perhaps a wooden replay, and there's probably for the highlight for most people was him kicking the corner flag.
The corner flag. Have we had a report on the corner flag, mate?
No. Like I rang all the hospitals, and then they actually told me to call Bunnings, and
right. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't got through to like Bunnings, Betonia, wherever it might be, but I'm sure someone in Wellington is still walking around with a length of pipe, so to speak,
and a roll of gaffer tape.
Yeah, back to the game. Yeah, look, it was sort of shirts off, 90 minutes. Everybody's having a great time, and then was at 94 minutes. We gave away the corner. Ollie Sale hit took the ball on the goalies, and from a resulting corner.
Yeah.
One of those little heartbreakers. However, I think most people would say that if you'd offered us a draw when Sasse was sent off, I think everybody would have taken it. So it was a good story, but slightly disappointing. But I feel very positive about the rest of the season, having seen what went on. We've still got some players to come back as well, and we'll probably see Ben Old getting some more time in the midfield for the next game. But we'll probably talk about the next game in a little while. But very, very positive. One thing we could perhaps just talk about was Sasse, who got the 3-match suspension for.
I was going to ask you about. Would you think that 3 weeks was a bit harsh for that? I do personally, but what's your thought?
I think the feeling is seems quite harsh, especially for perhaps a slip. There's no malice there at all. You can see, but look, maybe they're just drawing a line in the sand, and if they're consistent and everybody gets a 3-match suspension, and then you can appeal, maybe. There's a lot of sort of people on the forums in place of talking about a anti-Kiwi bias. I don't see it myself.
Yeah.
And you can't really call it that when there's only been the one sort of case. So we'll be watching sort of future cards or future suspensions and things like that. Maybe then we'll start whinging. But I think, most people feel it's a bit harsh. And maybe if they can get it down to 1 or 2, I think that's probably fair.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, I just think it was a little bit harsh for what it was, but is what it is. And we'll definitely talk about the Knicks' next game very, very shortly. And the last game, the Wanderers got a 1-0 win over Perth. Todd, Perth will be heading up your way on the weekend, weather permitting. We need to say that probably now because we live on in New South Wales. We need to say weather permitting after every single game. I don't know if you got to see too much of it. Mark Rudin said that he'd seen all the games and he thought the Wanderers was the best performance over the weekend. I don't know whether I 100% agree with that, but Perth actually, I think they're going to be a team that's going to improve week to week.
Yeah.
A few of the boys that are at Perth, they've been Newcastle boys and they're coming back this weekend. What's your thoughts on that Perth side?
I think they'll be a final 6 finisher, I reckon.
Right.
Probably start a bit slow, sort of thing. Newish coach like Rubes had sort of took over as he was the academy guy, I think. That took over halfway through last year. Got a few players that he wanted in. A lot of guys have actually know the Newey turf pretty well there, but it's from a while ago where I actually checked, we've got 3 guys that played for Perth last year. So maybe we know the tactics of Rubes adds a bit better than what
the other way around
of Arthur. So it'll be an interesting game.
Interesting. So while I got you there, mate, what's your prediction for that game next weekend? Big game at home for the Jets now, first game of the season.
Yeah. Can I change my mind?
No. No. This is locked in.
1-0
to Perth.
No, to us.
I'm just clarifying, mate. Just clarifying for the viewers.
Yeah. No, tight game, but I reckon we'll get the Chockies.
Okay, well, nice. I've actually tipped you as a 1-0 win as well, so that's probably sounding good. Dean, what's your view? Newcastle versus Perth?
Well, I missed the Wanderers game. Well, I watched the 3-minute highlights, and then I sort of jumped over just to have a look at the statistics as well. And Perth, 90 minutes, 2 shots on target versus 6 for the Mariner for Wanderers. So, I think they might struggle to get shots on goal. So I would go with perhaps a 1 or 2-0 win to Newcastle as well. Yeah,
I think it'll be a really tight one. I think, I'm presuming Perth would have stayed in the state rather than travelling back and coming back again. I'm not quite sure, but to save in the travel. But as I said, weather permitting, we get a fine weekend and the Jets can kick off the season. And speaking of kicking off seasons, the Mariners travelling over to New Zealand to play the Phoenix, which will be our first game of the season. Dean, will come to you. What's your thoughts? You guys have had a game, the ball kicked in anger. We're still waiting. What's your thoughts on the game?
So we've got the pre-season sort of nerves out of the way for us. You still have them. You did sort of like, are these combinations going to work? I'm feeling, even with Sasse out, I think we'll probably have sort of someone will step up into his place. I think Ben Old or something like that. That will be good. Combinations are starting to work, so I'm feeling 2-1 to us. That's in spite of, obviously recognising that the last time you went over, you did smash us, I think, 4-0.
Apparently, yep.
But we'll have less of a crowd perhaps than last time, which is clearly obviously intimidating us and not you. Yep. So perhaps having 8,000 in the crowd is going to be sort of playing our hands more than 20,000. Yeah.
You'll be like, close the gates. We don't want any more.
Exactly. Sorry, mate, can't come in. You're only playing in the Mariners' hands. So, yeah, look, I'm thinking 2-1 to us. I won't name the goal scorers, but it's probably going to be Ben Wayne and somebody else.
Well, fair enough, mate. And I'm going for a 2-0 Mariners win. Todd, who do you pick?
I'm going for a draw.
Oh, see, sitting on the fence, sitting on the fence as he absolutely does.
Come on, Switzerland.
And welcome back to the Grumpy Old Men, and we'd like to welcome our special guest for this evening. He is the original gaffer from the Central Coast Mariners, the former mayor of Gosford, and someone whose name is very well etched in the history of the club. Mr. Lawrie McKinna, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you very much. And me invite it on because I'm a grumpy old man. Is it only grumpy men to come on the show?
Allegedly. Wait, it's got nothing to do with your Scottish heritage, I can assure you.
No, thank you.
Mate, let's kick off. We were talking just before about Saturday, Matty Simon's send-off for his retirement. Obviously, literally rain dampened the whole night, which wasn't good. But you were out there and got to see a lot of the first teamers from the first few years. What was that like, catching up with a few of the guys?
It was actually great. It was the first time that Sasse Petrovsky came up for Wollongong, Billy Serjovsky, Brad Porter was there, Matt Crowell, Michael McGlinchey, although he moved to Scotland to live, he's been back out here for the last few months to sort some business and out, so it was ideal. Adam Kwasnick, Hef was there. Yeah. It was great to see some old faces. And, Graham Arnold, he'd actually said we need to get a real get-together for the old boys. And I went and spoke to Richard, the new manager or the new owner, and he's all for it. So beautiful. I gave Simon the instructions that his first job's going to be organising an old days boy, because we had about 14 there.
Absolutely.
We don't need to chase up. Those 14 people have all got a network of ex-Mariners players that they know. Get them to contact them, and if double it, triple it, and have a day where we come along and they'll get introduced to the crowd, and because they all come from different eras of the club's history, and it makes people remember back. I certainly did. When I walked out in the park and Vuka was there, and everyone getting sent off in that grand final, and I didn't even know that he'd touched the referee's finger.
Nah.
Was he back?
I'm just about to mute Todd so he can't comment. So,
that's right. James Holland never touched the ball with his hand. I forgot, Todd.
Touche. There we go. So no, I mean, I think that would be great. I mean, seeing the roll call of the players that turned up, and in talking to, we talked to Quaz and Rosie. Even Danny McBreen. I mean, they all talk so fondly of those days, and I think it'd be a shame to not to get the guys together so they can have a bit of a catch up. But it's been great to get them on the show to talk about those old days as well. So I definitely think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and the boys, the other night there, it was like kids in a toy shop. They were buzzing, and when they saw Hutch had done a video for the for Matty, and he's the biggest dog in the world, and he's had it in America. When he went there the first time, he left it with his neighbour, and he got it back when he went back over. So it's a big, huge thing. It happened to be backing into him, and it looked quite
incorrect.
Yes, but didn't realise that everybody in the tent, everybody in the outside fixture was pissing themselves laughing. So I text Hutch. I said, Hutch, it actually looks like you're doing something to the dog. And he said, look, she's a very needy dog. So that was funny just to see Hutch. And the boys he played with. It was great for Matty. It had been great to get a really good farewell, but even on the park, although it was raining very, very hard, he got a reception, and it was good. The 5,000, there were still 5,000 odd people in the stadium, so that was good, and he deserves it. He's been through a lot in the last year with his neck,
absolutely,
the nerves, but he was a great servant to the club. Even that first game and never scored the goal. It was the second year he started scoring the goals, and
absolutely.
Teams just hated playing against Matt Simon. And when it was at Sydney, when it was at the Man, you saw off the bench and you were playing against them, you know, they knew they were in for a game.
No, absolutely. And it was good that I did have some communication with Richard Peel too, the new Mariners owner, who said, yes, the club are definitely going to be organising some more things for Matty, because as I said, there's a lot of fans who would love to, you know, pay respect to the great man and say farewell themselves, and hearing all sorts of rumours of a number of different things happening. So that'll be really, really good to see. You were there in the Matty Simon first, you know, you saw him, you know, signed him up and all that. What was Matty Simon like at the start? What was he like as a player? What attracted him to the Mariners?
I came up to the coast. It was 2004. It was that's when I was working with the group to get the club in the league, and I won the local final series. And he played that night. I think he actually missed the penalty.
Right.
The top goal scorer, because I saw in the Express Advocate he was the top scorer. Yeah. So I knew him, and then somebody contacted me at the club and said they're a local boy, want to come and trial, and we just brought him in. Same as we did with Millie Ednat. You know, he said, all right, just come in for a look. He got recommended, and big man was all arms, he was all legs, you know, he was all over the place. Ian Ferguson used to say he's like Bambi on ice, you know, he was all over the place, but a handful. And he trained with us for quite a few months, and then I think he got an injury replacement contract.
Right.
And then he came in and he did well, and I think he quite enjoyed turning up at training in the morning, say 8:30, and then being home by 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Being an apprentice plasterer or what he was, and saw enough in him to say, you know, this big boy's got a chance. He's local, and that meant a lot to us to try and get as many local players as possible.
Yep.
And it was just that never say die attitude that he's carried on through his full career. No, and he was just hard to handle. So that was one of the reasons. We looked at it. He can't score goals. Can he score goals at A-League level? We'll wait and see. And he's went on to score. He's the club's top goal scorer.
Yep.
And he played in the national team. Played with the under 23s at the Olympic Games. You know, not many people can say that.
Absolutely.
So he achieved a lot, but that's how it came. I knew about him just reading the local paper.
Yep.
And then he came in and trained with us for a few months in the pre-season, and he deserved to get a gig.
Do you think too, mate, that, and I was talking about this with Quaz the other day, that too many people just go, oh yeah, Matt Simon, he's just a handful for a defence, physical guy. But the guy can put the ball in the net. I don't think he got enough credit for the actual stuff he could do with the ball.
And I think 2 years ago when he scored, I think it was 2 seasons ago, I thought that was Matty's best season. You know, in my time it had been 35, but he led the Mariners line. I think I was still at the Jets then, but watching, obviously I still came to games and that, but I thought his touch, he still had all the hustle and bustle, but he actually showed some class as well.
Yeah.
So I think he proved he was like a bottle of wine. He improved with age. I think when he was at Sydney FC with Arnie used him off the bench a lot.
Yep.
And he was a battering ram, and he came on and was a pest. But those last few years at the Mariners, I think he actually showed how good a player he was as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably a story that I have that you'll probably get a chuckle at, when he must have got his first contract for the Mariners. And I was still working at KFC in those days at a Kincumber. And someone ordered a meal coming through the drive-through. And he came up to the window and I went, oh, it's Matty Simon. And I saw on the passenger seat, this big white envelope with a Mariners badge on it. And I said, oh, mate, I said, you got your contract? And he said, yeah, I got the contract. He was so excited about it, first contract. And I said, oh, well, there you go, mate. And, here's you got a twister and a drink and chips. And I said, you enjoy that, mate? He said, yeah, no worries. I said, congrats, I'll see you on the weekend. And he started to pull away, and then he stopped and he leaned back and he said, don't tell the gaffer I'm eating this. And I went, yeah, I imagine Lawrie would kick your ass if you found out you're having KFC. But, you know,
a bit of KFC is good for you.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, but it's certainly been a great career for him, you know, coming all the way through. And as I said, there was more to Matty Simon than just that battering ram. That, you know, the guy could always put a ball in the back of the net. Dean, you would have seen him, you know, play against your teams enough times. Is he just that player that you just wish was playing for you and not against you?
Exactly. Yeah, it was like the flip. Here's Matty Simon. You know, it's like someone's going to get a cracked nose and he's probably going to score a goal. And yeah, look, it was one of those people. Sometimes somebody subs on, you think, oh, great, they're throwing in the towel. When you see Matty Simon sort of subbing on, you think, oh, we're in for it. It is funny that you're talking about the Matty Simon using the word send off, but it's in the context of saying farewell. Because most of us think if it's a Matty Simon send-off, and here's a couple of yellow cards for you. But no, a lot of respect for Matty. I'm glad that the Phoenix boys don't have to sort of face him anymore. Yeah. But he was always a pest in a very good sense of the word.
Absolutely. And I'm guessing, Todd, if we did a survey of all the Newcastle Jets fans, Matty Simon would have been their favourite ever Mariner, right?
Yeah, close. Hutcho and him, yeah, I'd say would be... Yeah. They'd run a close even. Yeah.
A toss-up between the two.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think Hutch might just win it.
Yeah. Well,
he's got a pocket full of money, though, where Matty Simon probably hasn't.
Well, I was going to say, he got more money about where your head is on that field. When he stood in front of some Newcastle fans, he copped a few coins, didn't he? So,
down there somewhere. Yeah,
down there somewhere. So... But yeah, look, he has had a great career, and I am really happy that the club is going to do some more stuff for him to send him off in the right way. And Lawrie, I've been watching the socials. You just got back from Scotland yourself.
Yeah,
saw a few live games over there, mate. What was all that like?
Yeah, no, I got back here last week Friday, and so I was over there for 2 weeks. Arrived on Friday and went to Ibrox on the Saturday in the director's box, you know, so we get in with the hobnobs, and I was there with Joe Coy from the Glen, who looks after the Glen. So we went to hoping to see Matt Birighetti play with Dundee United. You know, when we knew the game, it was like, wow, we're going to catch up with Mark. But he'd got injured and he wasn't back in the squad. But no, the game was rubbish. Rangers won 2-0, I think 2-1. But it was just great to be back at Ibrox. And then we caught up with Stuart McLaren. Stuart McLaren that was at Brisbane, done some coaching here, went over to the UK, finished his career playing, got into coaching. Well, he's now Celtic under-18s coach, so he's in at Celtic again. So he was a Scottish under-18 manager as well. So he got us in tickets for the Scotland-Ukraine game, which was great. And we saw that on a Wednesday night, and then we went to Celtic's training ground on the Thursday with Joe. You know, I wasn't too fussed about going, but I wanted to take Joe along because Stuart McLaren had organised it with Ange. Ange was actually back here. So we went to Leonardstown, which we had a great morning with them, and they really looked after us.
Nice.
And then Joe headed back down to England, and I spent time with my mum and that. So it was now I caught up with a lot of good football catch-ups. I caught up with Stuart McLaren again. And it was great. It was great. But it's always nice to come back home. You know, my mum's turned 85 when I was there. Right. So I was there for my mum, and she's fit. But it was nice. It's always nice to come back home.
No, absolutely.
Start of the A-League season.
Well, exactly. And I was saying the other day too, the amount of, especially through the amount of players that have gone to the Scottish League. What is it about that attraction to Scotland that gets these players going over there?
It's something to do with Brexit. I don't know the full ins and outs, but because the Brexit situation, it's easier to get into Scotland. It's easier to get a work visa through Scotland, so that's why a lot of them here. So I think you have to be like so many international. It's a lot harder to get into England. So you can get into Scotland and then get into England if you do really well. But you're right. There's been a big influx of players playing the Scottish Premier League.
Yeah, because I know, especially for example, like Kai Rolls having a great was having a decent time, but then got injured too as well. Does it help too playing at that level? I mean, we're talking about a World Cup starting in a month or so. Obviously, that would be an attraction too. You're more in the spotlight, I guess, being in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. Arnie wants as many players as possible playing in Europe, but they're no use going to Europe and no playing. You have to play games. And that's where all these boys are playing. Devlin's been doing really well. I think Atkinson did score at the week. He scored a double at the weekend.
Yep.
So the boys at St Mirren, Hibs and Hearts, I think Dundee United, so they're probably been 8 and 10 boys over there. So, but then you've got the Mariners, you've got, what do you call him, Jason Cummings, who's came from Dundee, who's came this way, and he made a debut and scored. So he's got a wee sniff to get in the World Cup as well, because his mother was an Aussie.
Yeah. I hope he gets in. I think we need something a little bit different in that squad, and he certainly applies something a little bit different. Dean, I think you had a question for the great man, and I don't mean Todd.
Few people do. Lawrie, I just before I ask my question, and it was asked to me by a friend, I just wanted to let you know that you're sort of still held in high regard by the Phoenix fans. I know many years ago you went into bat for us when we were doing our shirts off at Gosford, I think it was.
Yes, that's right. Newcastle. It was actually Newcastle.
There we go. So thanks for sorting that. And yes, if I mention your name to anybody within the Phoenix ranks, I think they all just think of that and think of you and feel positive towards you. So my question, which was given to me by a friend, was your thoughts on a second division in the A-League, the A-League second division.
Yeah, so I'm at Sydney Olympic just now in the NPL. I'm the acting CEO and I'm on the board. So Sydney Olympic's an ex-NSL team, and they're one of the teams that's pushing to get into the B-League. So they're over here, they're calling it the B-League at the moment. There's a meeting in a couple of weeks with all the clubs. So they're looking for between 12 and 14 clubs to win that. It will be like an old National League. It will not be full-time. It will be part-time for the start. But there's still, FFA want it starting, I think, 2024. So the big debate is it going to be a summer comp or winter comp? Because is it going to compete with A-League? So apparently the Melbourne clubs want summer football, and the Sydney clubs don't want to go up against the A-League. So it's definitely going to happen in the next year, I think. So whether it's 12 teams, 14 teams, is going to happen. There are five clubs in Sydney put their hand up, which are Sydney Olympics, Sydney United, Wollongong Wolves, Marconi and Apia. But they've invited at that meeting, I can see that the clubs coming for all over. So it's going to be great that grassroots football, because all these clubs got a lot of history in the game, and it's a pathway for their academies, their kids to come through and play in the B League. And I hope when they do it that they still keep their presence in the NPLs all round about Australia, and they make that. I think they should make that under 23s, under 20. And I believe that the B League team and the NPL team should be able to cross over. So if you've got boys in the first team who are not playing, they should make. So if for instance, it's Olympic and we're playing at home in the B League on the Saturday, I believe the game for the NPL should be played on the Wednesday, if it was going to be at home, so we don't clash. And so we could put 4 overage players who's not getting a game. And if there's anybody doing really well in under 23 comp, they have to get promoted, because it has to be. We can't be that hard and fast and say, nah, next season you'll get promoted. If boys are doing well enough, put them up. That's what you want. I don't think we're getting enough young players. When COVID came in, a lot of clubs had to play more younger players, and I think the game will benefit that where they're getting put in the shop window. And it might be in a few years that players will go direct for the B League overseas if they're doing well, and maybe some of the A-League clubs might want to loan some of their under 23 players to the NPL clubs to get that game time, because obviously when you're playing 20 odd games compared to overseas where they're playing 40 or 50 games, you get better with practice, and they're nothing better than playing games.
And I think too, there's been by watching the FFA Cup or now the Australia Cup, you get to see how many players or ex-A League players are still playing in these. Do you think I know we just had a final where we had an A League team, an NPL team. Do you think the gap is as close now as it's ever been between the standards between those two competitions, Lawrie?
Yeah, like the good thing is for the NPL teams, when they start coming into the comp, the A League teams are totally out of comp. You know, they've just come back pre-season. A guy with a dress has just come in here. My son's getting married that weekend, so he's going to try on a dress. I just hope he's not going to take his knickers off when he's putting a
We can edit.
There's a little Loch Ness monster just popped out there.
Oh, beautiful. A rare signing.
Nah, well, I believe there's going to be a place for the B League, I believe. I think these clubs like Sydney United did really well, like 2-0. They didn't do, like, they finished in 6th spot in the NPL, but then they hit that form at the end and picked up a couple of good results. I loved when they beat Brisbane at King Thomas in Denzer Park and the fans running apart, the passion. Yeah. I didn't love the other stuff that went on at the final, but, you know, that passion is supporting their team and showing that emotion, because I think over the last few years, the game in Australia and Wellington's had a hard time because they've been playing over here. But when they've gone back to Wellington and Auckland, it's been brilliant just watching those crowds come back and support boys. So we need to get that passion back. And if that means going back to old style football where you've got great clubs playing the Croatian clubs and you get that history going, well, so be it.
Yeah, and absolutely. And as you said, there's an absolute, I mean, the amount of players that are out there that would then get an opportunity to be put in the spotlight and come through may keep a lot more, more local. Just your thoughts too. Geraint Quoll heading overseas, big signing for Newcastle and going on loan. He hasn't started a game for the Mariners yet.
I know. So the boy's sitting amazing. He came off the bench last year. He banged in a couple of goals. He played that Barcelona game, and that's where it all came from.
Yeah.
Apparently, one of the Barcelona players went back, spoke to his agent, who spoke to somebody,
Yeah.
And it all happened, and he's going to stay here up until January, I think. But in my opinion, if they're going to loan him out somewhere, they could loan him back to the Mariners.
Yeah.
They're not. That's been done before, and I'm sure the Mariners are trying for that. But he's got that raw talent. But who knows how good the boy is going to be, until he actually starts playing games. But he's got pace. He's just got. He's one of those. When I was coaching, you always say you get your 8 or 9 players who get you over the line, and then you've got a couple of special ones. He's certainly one of the special ones.
Yeah,
he's got things up his sleeve that just come natural to him. He doesn't have to. He just does it,
Yeah,
which is great to see.
And talking of special, so just in your coaching time at the Mariners, if you had to name one player you just thought was special, just had that unique talent, who would you say? I mean, I know you're there for a number of years, mate. It's a lot of players, but
at the time, I always thought Quaz was special because he had he had some tricks and flicks that just bamboozled me. I didn't know what he used to do. He'd do something and I said, what did he do there? Because he went past somebody.
Yeah.
We played Melbourne Victory down there. We beat them Olympic Park. Brownie scored a couple. Quaz scored. And we beat them and they were going on. After match interview, they were going on about one of the Brazilian players doing step-overs and nutmegs.
Yeah,
but he lost the ball every time. The left fullback trying to nutmeg somebody, blah, blah, blah. I said, if Adam Kwasnick was called Quazodinho, you could be raving about Adam Kwasnick because he was different class, but obviously Gienna came through and was a big dominant force and went on to have a huge career because he just come in and stamped his presence. And a lot of people don't realise that when he left us to go to Turkey, that was coming into the final series. That was in the January or something. Yeah. I don't think we never won a game the rest of the season. We were sitting second in the league when he went. We snuck into the finals and we got first semi because we just lost that leader in the middle of midfield.
Yeah.
But you could go through. I could go like Danny came through, and Vukovic. You had like Gooms was a big fans' favourite. You know and then you look at Brownie. Like Brownie was the local quiet boy, and you know you could just go on and on and on. And my son's just moved to Perth.
Yep.
The boy he's working with Nick Merger's cousin, and Nick Merger just sent his regards to me today. So there's a boy. Well, you know, so that some of these boys will always. It's great that Hef. I remember broke his leg in the game round about Christmas. He was meant to leave and be best man at his brother's wedding, and that was the 4 game I think when Sydney beat us. We were down to 9 men. That was a huge night, and he broke his leg and got carried off and missed his brother's wedding. You know, so like Michael Beauchamp, like him and F away to the German Bundesliga to Nuremberg. Who'd ever believe that?
Yeah.
You know, so there were. I think to pick one would be really hard, but there are a lot of special boys and special men that came through. Tom Ponley, what a player he was as well. You know, Tommy, the worst physique in the world. He was like shit off a shovel. He was that quick. Smoke, drink, everything he shouldn't do, he did. But he still was a great athlete in that. And there are a few memories when we made finals and semi-finals, coming back for Adelaide and in places, and just seeing, because I was a believer that after a game where you win and lose, if it was away from home, you went out and had a couple of beers and got the team together. There were a few good nights, well-behaved nights, and stories the next day, and there were many happy memories for those times.
Absolutely. Well, that'll be a totally different show, which will be a different rating, I'm sure too. So we'll definitely get that one sorted. And it's funny when you said about Quaz, because I'm sure if I ask Quaz the same question, he'd probably say him as well. So bit of a character, that guy. Mate, unfortunately, as we said before, the game got called off with the rain on the weekend. Just put your coaching hat back on a sec. You're in the sheds, unsure about, kickoff time. They've been delayed here. Would you have been the type of coach sort of said, switch off, boys, we'll switch back on when we need to? Or would you have been someone who would have tried to maintain some kind of focus?
Some kind of focus, because it's some players can switch on and off.
Yeah.
Like really good players just switch on and off. They know what they need to do, but some boys don't. Some boys need to be in that zone. And so I would have tried to keep it light-hearted, but with the focus always being that I'd be saying the game was going to be on. I would say, keep in mind the game's going to happen, so be ready. So that's the angle I would have went at. Even then, if it's off, it's off. But rather thinking, it's probably going to be off, and then all of a sudden it's on, it's harder to get the boys back up again. So I would have kept it that the game's going to happen.
Yeah.
Ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think too, I mean, Mariners and Jets haven't played their game yet. Does that change anything for, Pappas and Monty? Do they have to readjust things because they just haven't played yet? Or is this like, right now, this is our first game, we focus again?
They'll just focus again. The Mariners are over at Wellington the weekend, which is always a hard for anybody. I always used to my results in New Zealand weren't great. I think Brisbane was a team that always, for some reason, was always my bogey team. But Wellington, it's always hard to go to Wellington and get a result.
Yeah. And
whether you go 2 days before, the day before, some people like 2 days before. I liked 1 day before.
Yeah.
It was just a hard one to go. But Monty would have missed the run. You could train all you want, but you'll never make up that 90 minutes that you missed out on.
Yeah.
You can get you tweak, you can fix a few problems if you had any problems. So that, I think that'll be both clubs going into the game, they're going to be slightly underdone. So I think that's going to be a bit of a negative for both teams. They'll be slightly underdone, but depending how they've went pre-season, because you can't just ramp up in the last week because you missed out. So you're left a lot of shagging a rock, really.
Yeah. So we had our predictions of a couple of games for this weekend. So what's your thoughts with the Mariners travelling over to Wellington? How do you see it?
I thought Wellington did amazing the weekend with 10 men for 65 minutes or something.
Yeah.
As the game went on, they get stronger, and I was actually a wee bit disappointed when Adelaide scored. Although I like watching Adelaide and they're a good team, but I was wanting Wellington to win that because I thought the send-off was it was a 50-50 kind of thing. So, but Mariners pre-season form, and I know it's pre-season form, but their pre-season form is really, really good. And I'm a believer. Every game you play in pre-season setting you up for the season. So you go in. I know the coaches who say pre-season doesn't matter are the ones who usually lost a few games.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think Wellington will be buoyed with a good performance last week and a hard-fought performance. I reckon it could be a draw over there, and because in my book, if you win all your home games and draw your away games, you actually win the league.
Yeah, exactly.
So getting a draw over in Wellington's fair, but and depending who's going to be up, I know Cummings, I think, was going to be in the bench last week, so obviously he'll be closer to full fitness. So I would think so the Mariners will probably have a bit stronger team than they would have had. So I'm tipping a draw for that one. Score draw.
And what about, so now the Jet season opener against Perth? How do you see that?
Yeah, I watched the Perth Western Sydney game at the weekend, and it was I don't know if they even had a shot, So you would hope Newcastle fans, knowing them the way I do, they'd be expecting a win out of that. They'd be expecting a home win. If it's not a home win, it'll be a disappointing result for them, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said in prediction-wise, I think a team's going to struggle to break that 3-team Melbourne dominance at the top of the table. I think Victory City, and even though Western were a little bit disappointing last weekend, but can you see what other teams do you see outside of that can break into that top 3?
All right, Sydney get beat obviously the weekend. You always look for Sydney. Is the Wanderers going to show anything? Well, the one at the weekend I didn't think it was great, but it was a win. Any punters that say, "Oh yeah, we never played well with this and that," I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
If we win the game and it's 1-0 and a shitey, scabby goal trickles over the line, it's 3 points. And too many of these purists just want to see this tick-a-taka.
Yeah.
Do you think Alex Ferguson, when he went to Southampton in a Wednesday night and he scored the winner in the 96th minute and it was a shit game, he ever cared?
Exactly.
No chance. So, Wanderers, I don't know. I think MacArthur's a wee bit, they're the kind of underdogs. They've done well pre-season. They picked up a couple of results. They've got a few new players. They've got Arzani's in there, and he has to prove something in the next few weeks to get in the well, they've been, I don't know if there were a lot of kind of question marks over Dwight York. He's never coached. He's brought in one of his mates who's got a bit of experience, but they've been getting results, so I just don't know if they're going to have the consistency of the big Melbourne teams.
Yeah,
that's the Melbourne City. You look at Melbourne City over the last probably 3 seasons, they're the most consistent.
Yeah.
Now Popper's got his own squad together. They're going to be strong.
Yeah.
And what Aloisi did with Western United was fantastic. They went for mid-table, average team, poor team to watch to win in the league. So I think the dominance could be there. Adelaide, I liked watching them last year. They're always exciting. You can get something off them.
Yeah.
I think Brisbane could struggle a wee bit again this year.
Yeah, no, we were saying that before. I know a lot of teams are writing them off. I don't think they're going to be a write-off. I think they'll earn a few points along the way. But I think it'll be an interesting season. So I guess we'll see how round 2 eventuates. It'd be good to actually see some football for Mariners fans and Jets fans as well, I guess, too. And we've gone through a whole, half hour or so, and I haven't even mentioned the Champions League from this morning. So how good's that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Oh, Tottenham won. Yeah, Tottenham won. So that's what I was covering, yeah.
I went down swimming this morning, and it was half time. It was 1 each.
Yeah.
I was down there and went, no, this is good. I jumped back on my bike, came home 12 minutes later. It was 3-1.
Yeah.
And I got Christine to put the TV on, and it was 4-1. And I just lost for words.
No. Watch the Tottenham game instead. Well, we were 3-1 up. They had 10 men. We missed a penalty, and then they scored. So we were hanging on against 10 men. It was a dreadful game. But anyway, as you said before, a win is a win. So we'll definitely take that. We need it for sure. Boys, that brings us to the end of our show day. Lawrie, thanks heaps for coming on, mate. All the best with the wedding on the weekend. We send all our absolute best, and we'll definitely get you back on again later in the season to we'll strictly talk Mariners when these other guys aren't hanging around, because we know what they're like. So,
Todd's we have to talk. We have to share the love.
Absolutely. Well, that's why we do it. We keep these guys from all points of the globe. So, thanks a lot for coming on, mate. Really, really appreciate it. Dean and Todd, thanks again, boys. We will do it again very, very soon.
Cheers, boys. Good talking to you.
Nice to meet you.
And that is our show for today. Massive thank you once again to Lawrie McKinna for dropping by. So interesting to hear about the Matt Simon farewell night. Poor Hutch, the dog. Oh, who'd have thought? It was also great to hear about his trip to Scotland. Also his time with Matty Simon in the early days. What it was like to have Matty Simon running around in his initial period of time in the A-League, and also very interesting about the A-League development, that second division. Very interesting to hear what is going on with that. So thanks very much to Lawrie for coming in. We will definitely get Lawrie on again soon. To my fellow grumpy old men, Dean and Todd, absolute pleasure to have you guys on again. We will do so again very, very shortly. And for you for watching, absolutely really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you as part of our family. Plenty of great videos coming your way on the channel. We want to make sure that you are a part of it. As I said at the start, no subscriber shall be left behind. So please hit that little button in the corner and make sure that you are part of this team. Where else would you want to be? Thanks for watching. Really, really appreciate it. We will catch up with you very, very soon. There's an episode of The Front Three coming out next week, early part of next week. And let me tell you, you thought the grumpy old men were grumpy. I've been talking with these three ladies off the show, and we've just been talking on the side. And let me tell you, they have some topics and things they want to discuss. Your ears will be burning. You thought these guys were grumpy. I mean, the grumpy front three, the way they're going. Can't wait for that show. We haven't recorded it yet, and I know it's going to be an absolute cracker. Another reason to subscribe to the channel. That will be early next week. Thanks so much for watching. It's been the MartyMariner Show.